measured by how fast they speak, how aggressively they move, and how forcefully they can impose themselves on a situation. But watch closely, and a different pattern emerges. The men who truly control environments, who shift the emotional temperature of a room without raising their voice, who command respect without demanding it, operate on an entirely different frequency. They don't rush to fill silence. They don't scramble to defend their image. They don't spill words trying to convince others of their value. They lean back. They observe. Their eyes stay steady. Their breathing even, while everyone else reveals their insecurities through noise. That stillness isn't hesitation, and it isn't weakness. It's regulation. It's awareness. It's control held so tightly it never needs to be displayed. There's something deeply unsettling about a man who feels no urgency to prove he's strong, no nervous laughter to ease tension, no compulsive talking to win approval, no emotional leakage that gives others something to grab onto, just composure, a neutral face, an unreadable presence that makes people question their own footing. Because when someone can't read you, they can't anticipate your moves. And when they can't anticipate you, they can't manipulate the outcome in their favor. History didn't ultimately fear the loudest men in the room. It remembered the composed ones, the commanders who stayed quiet while others panicked, the leaders who paused while others reacted, the strategists who listened while others argued themselves into corners. Calm is not the absence of emotion, it's authority over its expression. It's feeling everything and choosing what the world is allowed to see. You were told intensity equals strength, that aggression equals leadership, that the biggest reaction wins. But real influence works in reverse. The less a man is shaken by chaos, the more he shapes what happens around him. His silence creates pressure. His patience becomes positioning. His stillness becomes silent dominance. In a world addicted to noise, outrage, and constant performance, the calm man doesn't compete for attention. He doesn't chase the spotlight. He becomes something far more powerful. He becomes gravity. And without realizing it, everyone else begins to orbit. Number one, the still face and the inner world. Look at a calm man long enough, and you begin to notice something unsettling, not because he is threatening, but because he is not broadcasting himself. His face is not a billboard for every passing emotion. It is a controlled canvas, like an artist who chooses each stroke with intention. Most people wear their inner world on their skin. Their frustrations tighten their jaw. Their insecurity flickers through their eyes. Their need for approval lifts their eyebrows in subtle, pleading ways. But the calm man has studied himself. He has sat with his anger without letting it spill. He has felt fear without letting it drive. He has experienced embarrassment without letting it define him. Over time, his inner storms have carved depth into him instead of cracks across him. This is why his face appears composed, not empty, but layered. When pressure rises, his breathing remains steady. His gaze doesn't dart for escape. His posture does not collapse inward. He becomes still, and that stillness has psychological weight. People sense it before they understand it. The human nervous system is always scanning for cues of danger or safety. When someone is emotionally volatile, others subconsciously brace themselves. But when a man remains calm under tension, he signals stability. His presence regulates the room. Conversations are slow. Reactions soften. This is not dominance through force. This is influence through nervous system control. He has learned to pause between stimulus and response, and that pause is where his power lives. Instead of reacting to protect his ego, he responds to protect the outcome. Instead of chasing the last word, he chooses the right word. Instead of proving himself in every moment, he allows his consistency over time to speak. This restraint is often mistaken for passivity by those who only understand loudness. But restraint is not the absence of strength. It is strength under governance. A calm man has confronted his shadow, the impulsive, reactive parts of himself, and instead of denying them, he has integrated them. He knows his capacity for anger, which is why he does not fear it. He knows his capacity for pride, which is why he does not let it steer him. He knows his insecurities, which is why he is not ruled by the need to impress. That self-knowledge creates quiet confidence. His aura feels grounded because it is built on awareness, not performance. When he enters a room, he does not try to be the most interesting person there. He becomes the most centered, and in a world addicted to stimulation, centered energy feels rare, almost magnetic. Like a ghost moving through noise without being pulled into it, he observes before he speaks, listens before he acts, and thinks before he decides. This inner order becomes the foundation of everything else. Without it, composure is an act. With it, composure is identity. Number 2, the psychology of unreadability. Under pressure, most people become predictable. Their voice rises, their words rush forward, and their gestures grow sharp with urgency. Emotion spills out in tone, posture, and expression. A calm man moves in the opposite direction. The more intense the moment becomes, the more deliberate he becomes. His breathing slows, his posture steadies, and his voice lowers instead of climbs. This unreadability is not a game or manipulation. It is mastery of internal regulation. Psychology calls this emotional self-regulation, the ability to feel deeply without being ruled by those feelings. When others cannot easily read your emotional state, they are forced to slow down and reassess. They lose the advantage of quick emotional triggers. This creates psychological space, and in that space, the calm man gains the most valuable asset in any tense situation: time. Time is influence. Time is leverage. Time allows thought to outrun impulse. Many conflicts explode simply because reactions happen too fast. Words are fired like weapons, pride takes control, and escalation becomes automatic. But when one person stays composed, the emotional fire struggles to spread. His stillness absorbs impact rather than reflecting it. He does not mirror chaos, he stabilizes it. This is why calm can feel intimidating. You cannot easily provoke him, rush him, or corner him emotionally. His nervous system has been trained to tolerate discomfort without panic. That tolerance is strength. While many avoid tension, he can sit inside it without flinching. He listens without interrupting, receives criticism without instant defense, and faces uncertainty without demanding immediate relief. This resilience is quiet, but powerful. In crises, such steadiness becomes leadership. Panic spreads quickly, but calm spreads too. When one person remains grounded, others begin to regulate themselves as well. His influence comes not from volume or dominance, but from emotional containment. He manages his inner state instead of being managed by it, creating distance between feeling and action. That distance is freedom. Without it, people live as reflexes. With it, a man becomes intentional. His words grow fewer but sharper. His decisions are slower but wiser. His presence was quieter but heavier. People sense that when he speaks, it carries weight because he is not releasing emotion. He is directing reality. This is unreadability through inner order, not emotional absence. And it turns composure into quiet power. Number 3, historical stillness and modern mastery. Long before modern psychology gave names to emotional regulation, ancient thinkers practiced it as a way of life. Marcus Aurelius, ruling one of the most powerful empires in history, faced war, betrayal, disease, and political chaos. Yet his private writings reveal a man constantly reminding himself to stay calm, rational, and disciplined. He did not pretend life was easy. He acknowledged difficulty and trained his response to it. His stoicism was not coldness, it was clarity. He understood that events themselves are neutral. It is our interpretation that creates suffering. By mastering his interpretations, he mastered his reactions. This is the same principle modern cognitive psychology teaches. Between event and emotion lies belief. Change the belief, and the emotional outcome shifts. A calm man studies his beliefs. He notices when he is taking things personally that are not. He questions assumptions that fuel anger. He reframes setbacks as information rather than failure. This cognitive flexibility keeps his emotional world stable. Instead of seeing every disagreement as disrespect, he sees perspective. Instead of viewing every delay as injustice, he sees timing. Instead of interpreting every challenge as a threat, he sees growth. This mental framing protects his peace without disconnecting him from reality. He is not naive. He sees problems clearly, but he does not dramatize them unnecessarily. That restraint conserves energy. Energy saved from emotional overreaction can be invested into strategy, creativity, and long-term vision. This is why calm men often appear patient. They are not in a rush to prove themselves. They are building something that outlasts moments. They understand timing. They know when to speak and when to wait, when to act and when to observe. Like a chess player thinking several moves ahead, they refuse to be pulled into impulsive exchanges that serve no meaningful outcome. This patience can be misread as indifference by those who live in constant urgency. But urgency is often anxiety, wearing the mask of importance. The calm man distinguishes between what feels urgent and what is actually important. That distinction allows him to allocate attention wisely. His life becomes less reactive and more directed. This direction creates a quiet sense of purpose. Purpose anchors him when emotions fluctuate. He does not wake up chasing mood. He wakes up aligned with intention. This alignment deepens his aura. Others sense that he is not drifting. He is moving with quiet certainty. That certainty is not loud confidence. It is grounded self-trust, built through repeated experiences of handling life without losing himself. Number 4, presence without performance. In a world shaped by constant visibility, many people feel pressured to perform strength. They speak louder, move bigger, and react faster, hoping to be seen as confident. But performance is exhausting because it depends on external feedback. The calm man does not perform composure, he practices it. His presence is not designed for applause, it is designed for alignment. When he walks into a room, he does not scan for who is watching. He scans for what is happening. His attention is outward, not self-absorbed. This outward focus makes him a better listener. He hears tone shifts, notices unspoken tension, and senses when someone is uncomfortable. Because he is not preoccupied with how he appears, he becomes more aware of others. That awareness builds trust. People feel seen around him, they feel heard. They feel less judged because he is not reacting emotionally to every detail. This makes conversations with him feel different, slower, deeper, more deliberate. He does not interrupt to assert himself. He does not rush to share his own story. He allows space, and in that space, others open up. This is influence rooted in presence, not persuasion. His body language mirrors this philosophy. He moves economically, not stiffly but without unnecessary gestures. He sits with stability. He stands with balance. His eye contact is steady, but not aggressive. These nonverbal signals communicate self-assurance without intimidation. People relax around him because his nervous system is not broadcasting tension. Over time, this creates a reputation. He becomes known as someone who does not overreact, who can be trusted with responsibility, and who remains steady when things go wrong. This reliability is a form of quiet power. Opportunities flow toward those who can handle pressure without spreading it. Leadership often lands on the shoulders of the most composed person in the room, not the loudest. The calm man understands this without chasing it. He focuses on becoming internally solid, and external roles follow naturally. His shadow has been integrated here as well. He knows his desire to be recognized, his temptation to show off, and his urge to defend himself unnecessarily. But because he is aware of these impulses, he does not let them run his behavior. He chooses restraint, not because he lacks fire, but because he directs it intentionally. This makes his rare displays of assertiveness more impactful. When he finally speaks firmly or sets a boundary, people listen. His calm has built credibility. His words carry weight because they are not wasted. Number 5, emotional safety and sophisticated influence. One of the most underestimated forms of strength is the ability to create emotional safety. A calm man does this naturally. In disagreements, he does not escalate. He listens fully before responding. He asks clarifying questions instead of making accusations. His tone remains even, which helps the other person stay regulated as well. This transforms conflict from a battlefield into a problem-solving space. People are more willing to be honest when they do not feel attacked. His composure makes room for truth. In close relationships, this steadiness becomes deeply valuable. When others are overwhelmed, he does not mirror their chaos. He grounds it. He offers perspective without dismissing emotion. He becomes someone others can lean on, not because he has all the answers, but because he does not add fuel to emotional fires. This builds trust over time. Trust is influence in its most refined form. It cannot be demanded. It is earned through consistent calm and reliability. Professionally, this emotional stability becomes a strategic advantage. High-stakes environments reward those who can think clearly under pressure. While others rush decisions fueled by anxiety, the calm man slows down just enough to avoid costly mistakes. He asks better questions. He weighs consequences. He separates urgency from importance. His decisions tend to be measured and sustainable rather than reactive and dramatic. This consistency builds a track record. Others begin to rely on his judgment. His aura shifts from simply calm to authoritative, not through titles or volume, but through demonstrated steadiness. This is sophisticated influence. He does not need to manipulate or dominate. His credibility does the work. When he speaks, people consider his perspective seriously, because experience has shown he does not speak from impulse, he speaks from thought. Over time, this kind of presence reshapes environments. Teams become less reactive. Conversations become more thoughtful. Conflicts become more constructive. His calm becomes a cultural stabilizer. He leads not by force, but by example. Number 6, the long game of self-mastery. Calm is not achieved in a single moment of insight. It is built through thousands of small decisions, choosing to breathe before replying, choosing to pause before judging, choosing to reflect instead of react. These micro-choices compound into identity. Eventually, a man no longer tries to be calm. He simply is. This identity shift changes how he experiences life. Challenges no longer feel like personal attacks, they feel like training. Delays become opportunities for patience. Criticism becomes information for growth. Failure becomes feedback for adjustment. This mindset reduces unnecessary suffering. He stops fighting reality and starts working with it. Spiritually, this calm opens deeper awareness. When the mind is not constantly agitated, perception sharpens, intuition becomes clearer, values become more defined. Silence transforms from discomfort into guidance. In that stillness, he refines who he is and what he stands for. His life becomes less about reaction and more about intention. This intention shapes his aura into something rare, a quiet force, not loud, not flashy, but deeply grounded. Like a masterpiece shaped slowly over time, every experience adds texture, depth, and meaning. His shadow remains part of him, acknowledged and integrated, giving him depth without controlling him. This is why calm men are described as dangerous in the most constructive sense. They cannot be easily shaken, manipulated, or provoked into self-sabotage. Their center of gravity is internal. Their power is not explosive, it is enduring. They influence without shouting, lead without forcing, and protect without dominating. In a world addicted to noise, their silence carries weight. In a culture driven by reaction, their response creates direction. And in moments of chaos, they become the steady presence others unconsciously look toward. Not because they demand attention, but because calm, disciplined self-mastery is one of the rarest and most powerful forms of strength a man can embody. There are certain habits in life that speak louder than words, habits that don't demand attention but naturally reveal the kind of man you are. For Sigma males, these habits aren't flashy or exaggerated. They don't come with loud declarations or the need to impress others. Instead, they're quiet, steady, and often unnoticed until someone looks closely. A Sigma male is not defined by titles or by how many people recognize him in a room. He is defined by the way he lives his everyday life, in small details that others overlook. The way he carries himself, the way he thinks, and the way he chooses to respond when no one else is watching. In today's world, where many men are pushed to prove themselves through external validation, Sigma males stand apart. They prove themselves differently, not by showing off, but by the strength of their independence and the clarity of their actions. These men live with a sense of quiet purpose, one that is not always easy to see, but impossible to deny once you recognize it. Think about it for a moment. We live in a society that often rewards the loudest voice in the room, but what about the man who doesn't need to shout, yet still commands respect? What about the man who doesn't demand validation, yet leaves a lasting impression? This is the essence of Sigma. The habits we're about to explore are not common. Many men may try to copy them, but only a few can truly live them consistently. Because these habits are not just behaviors. They're reflections of an inner world built on discipline, solitude, and strength. So today, let's walk slowly through these habits one by one. As you listen, ask yourself, do these resonate with how you live your own life? You may find that you already carry some of them within you. And if you do, it may just confirm something important, that you are indeed walking the path of the Sigma male. Habit 1, comfort in solitude. The Sigma male does not fear being alone. For him, solitude is not a prison, it is a sanctuary. While many people equate being alone with loneliness, the Sigma sees it differently. Solitude, in his eyes, is a fertile ground where ideas grow, clarity sharpens, and creativity thrives. This mindset is deeply tied to psychology and history. Studies in psychology show that spending time alone can improve focus, self-awareness, and emotional regulation. Unlike extroverts who gain energy from social settings, Sigma males recharge in silence, allowing them to maintain independence and cultivate inner strength. Throughout history, some of the greatest thinkers and leaders have leaned into solitude. Albert Einstein famously said, "I live in that solitude which is painful in youth, but delicious in the years of maturity." Similarly, Nikola Tesla embraced being alone as a way to harness his creativity. For Sigma males, this isn't about isolation or rejecting people, it's about understanding that personal growth often requires space away from distractions. They thrive where others panic, because they recognize silence not as emptiness, but as a canvas to paint their thoughts and visions. The modern world often glorifies constant connectivity, social media, crowded gatherings, and endless conversations. For many, the idea of being without company sparks anxiety. Psychologists call this fear of solitude, a condition tied to an overdependence on external validation. But Sigma males flip this narrative. By choosing solitude, they cultivate resilience, discipline, and a clearer sense of identity. They do not seek approval from the crowd, which makes them more self-directed and often more mysterious in the eyes of others. In solitude, the Sigma male also hones creativity. Research published in the journal Personality and Social Psychology Bulletin shows that people who are comfortable spending time alone tend to produce more original ideas. This explains why Sigma males often have unconventional solutions, unique insights, or rare talents that set them apart. What others call loneliness, they recognize as the birthplace of innovation. Moreover, solitude strengthens reflection. Religious traditions across the world recognize the power of retreating into silence. Whether it is monks in monasteries, prophets in the wilderness, or philosophers in quiet study. For the Sigma male, solitude becomes a personal discipline, much like meditation. It sharpens his decision-making and helps him maintain emotional balance, making him less reactive to external chaos. In a society that constantly pressures people to stay connected, the Sigma male reminds us of an overlooked truth. Sometimes the most powerful connection is the one you make with yourself. For him, being alone is not a weakness. It is the foundation of strength, creativity, and lasting growth. Habit 2, independence over approval. He doesn't chase validation. His choices, career moves, and lifestyle are directed by his own compass, not by the shifting opinions of others. This mindset is not just a romanticized idea of independence. It has deep roots in psychology and history. Studies in social psychology show that most people are highly influenced by external validation, meaning they adjust their behavior to be accepted, praised, or recognized. Social media has amplified this tendency, with likes and comments becoming modern tokens of approval. Yet individuals who resist this cycle, like Sigma males, embody what psychologists call internal locus of control. They believe their life outcomes are shaped more by their own decisions than by the world's approval, which often leads to greater resilience, confidence, and self-sufficiency. Throughout history, many great thinkers, inventors, and leaders shared this trait. Nikola Tesla, for example, lived much of his life overlooked and underfunded, while others chased fame and recognition. Yet his innovations continue to shape the modern world. Similarly, philosophers like Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively about detaching from public opinion, reminding us that seeking constant validation is a trap that binds the soul. Sigma males mirror this philosophy in modern terms. They may excel in careers, build businesses, or pursue unconventional paths, not because it looks good on paper, but because it aligns with their values and vision. This doesn't mean they reject people or society. Rather, they understand the difference between connection and dependence. Relationships for them are chosen, not clung to, and success is measured by fulfillment, not applause. This creates a paradox. The less they chase validation, the more respect and admiration they receive. It is the quiet power of being self-directed. Just like how a compass always points north regardless of the terrain, their inner compass guides them steadily even when the world shifts around them. In a time when external validation feels almost unavoidable, this mindset is both rare and powerful. It requires courage to stand apart, to say no when others expect yes, and to trust one's vision even when misunderstood. That's why Sigma males are often seen as mysterious. They operate from conviction, not compliance. Their lives remind us of an enduring truth. Freedom comes not from applause, but from authenticity. To live guided by one's own compass is not only a mark of strength, but also a lesson for anyone who desires peace, clarity, and a life truly their own. Habit 3, observing more than speaking. Sigma males are often misunderstood because of their quiet nature. Many assume their silence comes from shyness or a lack of confidence, but that's far from the truth. In reality, their silence is a deliberate choice. Sigma males are observers. They spend more time watching, analyzing, and understanding their surroundings than most people do. This quiet watchfulness gives them a unique advantage. It allows them to notice details others miss and use those insights to shape their decisions with precision. Psychologists often describe this as a heightened form of situational awareness. Research in behavioral science shows that people who observe more tend to make better judgments in social and professional settings because they are processing more data before acting. Sigma males naturally embody this principle. While others may rush into conversations or decisions, they wait, assess, and move when the timing is right. This is why they often come across as mysterious, because they reveal so little while perceiving so much. In history and literature, many great leaders, inventors, and thinkers carried this same trait. Figures like Albert Einstein and Nikola Tesla were known to be highly observant introverts who preferred silence, not out of fear of people, but because they were lost in careful thought. Similarly, Sigma males use silence as a tool. By choosing to listen rather than speak, they can spot inconsistencies, hidden motives, or opportunities that others overlook. From an evolutionary perspective, silence also served as a survival mechanism. Early hunters and warriors relied on quiet observation to track prey or detect threats. That instinct remains in Sigma males today, making them naturally strategic in how they navigate life. They can enter a room and within minutes pick up on body language, tone, and atmosphere, skills that are invaluable in leadership, business, and relationships. What makes this silence powerful is not just what they notice, but what they do with the information. Instead of reacting impulsively, Sigma males process and filter details, then act with intention. This is why their decisions often appear well calculated and impactful. They don't need to speak loudly or frequently to influence a room. Their presence, awareness, and timely words are enough. So when you see a Sigma male sitting quietly, don't mistake it for weakness or insecurity. His silence is not empty. It's full of awareness, calculation, and understanding. In a world where everyone wants to be heard, he chooses to listen, and in that listening, he finds power. Habit 4, respect without demand. Instead of asking for respect, he earns it quietly. Through consistency, reliability, and calm presence, people naturally come to respect him. This is one of the most fascinating aspects of true leadership and influence. When authority doesn't need to be shouted, it is simply felt. In psychology, this is known as earned respect, which is more powerful and long-lasting than demanded respect. Studies in organizational behavior highlight that leaders who model dependability and calm composure tend to inspire greater trust and loyalty than those who rely on intimidation or status symbols. People instinctively recognize the difference between someone who forces attention and someone who lives in a way that naturally attracts it. In everyday life, this principle shows itself in subtle ways. The person who shows up on time, follows through on promises, and listens more than they speak builds a quiet credibility. Think of someone at work or in your community who never raises their voice, yet when they speak, everyone listens. That influence doesn't come from flashy charisma or a need to dominate. It comes from a steady track record of being someone others can count on. History is full of figures like this. Leaders such as Mahatma Gandhi and Nelson Mandela exemplified how calm strength and reliability could draw respect without demanding it. There's also a biological side to this. Neuroscience suggests that humans are wired to feel secure around those who radiate calm energy. A study published in Frontiers in Psychology explains that mirror neurons in the brain cause people to subconsciously mimic the emotional state of those around them. This means a consistently calm person creates a ripple effect, lowering anxiety in others and making them feel safer in their presence. Over time, this emotional stability becomes a source of respect, even admiration. The lesson here is both practical and inspiring. Respect that is earned, not demanded, has deeper roots. Demanded respect fades the moment fear or authority disappears, but earned respect endures because it is tied to trust, consistency, and character. It's why the Sigma male archetype is often described as mysterious yet respected. He doesn't need to explain himself or seek validation. His actions and presence do the speaking for him. So whether in friendships, relationships, or leadership, the quiet consistency of one's actions has more weight than loud declarations. In the end, true respect is never forced. It is cultivated through reliability, calmness, and authenticity, the kind of presence people feel drawn to, not pushed toward. Habit 5, emotional self-mastery rare. The habit of staying calm under pressure is one of the rarest qualities a man can develop, and it is one of the defining traits of the Sigma male. Unlike most people who allow emotions to dictate their behavior, the Sigma does not let anger, fear, or insecurity control his actions. He doesn't lash out in a fit of rage, nor does he shrink away when tension rises. Instead, he chooses to respond rather than react. This subtle difference makes all the difference. Reacting is impulsive, often driven by raw emotion, but responding is intentional. It requires awareness, discipline, and self-control. This ability has roots in both psychology and physiology. Studies show that when humans experience anger or fear, the amygdala, the brain's emotional control center, fires off signals that flood the body with adrenaline and cortisol. This fight or flight response can cloud judgment, narrow focus, and lead to decisions that are regretted later. The Sigma male, however, masters the art of pausing. By taking a breath and refusing to be swept away by the storm of chemicals in his body, he re-engages the prefrontal cortex, the rational part of the brain responsible for logic and decision-making. In doing so, he maintains clarity even in the heat of the moment. History provides countless examples of individuals who embodied this principle. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher, often wrote about the power of remaining unshaken by external chaos. He believed that while one cannot control what happens in the world, one can always control how to interpret and respond to it. Modern psychology echoes this wisdom through practices like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, which teaches people to identify automatic negative thoughts and replace them with constructive responses. What Stoics practiced in ancient times, Sigma males live out today, choosing calmness as a form of strength. This habit is not only practical, but also deeply attractive. People naturally gravitate toward those who exude composure in the midst of chaos. In leadership settings, calmness inspires trust. In relationships, it provides stability. And in everyday life, it sets one apart as someone who cannot be easily shaken. The Sigma male doesn't need to prove his dominance by raising his voice or displaying aggression. His silence and stillness speak volumes, showing that he is in control of himself no matter what the world throws his way. In a culture that often glorifies loudness, outrage, and instant reactions, the Sigma's calmness becomes a quiet form of rebellion. It is not passivity, but power under restraint. It is the discipline of a man who has mastered his inner world, and by doing so, can navigate the outer one with clarity and strength. Few men truly have this habit, but those who do are recognized as rare and formidable. Habit 6, living with purpose, not performance. For the Sigma, life is not a stage. He does not live to perform for others. Every step he takes is aligned with a deeper purpose, whether anyone notices or not. This mindset separates him from the majority who are often caught in cycles of validation, applause, and comparison. In psychology, this independence of thought is closely tied to what researchers call intrinsic motivation, a drive fueled not by rewards or recognition, but by internal values and goals. People who operate this way often display higher levels of self-discipline and long-term focus because their actions are rooted in personal meaning rather than fleeting approval. Think of it like this. Most men walk through life under a spotlight, consciously or unconsciously adjusting their actions to fit what others expect of them. The Sigma male, however, walks in the shadows by choice, not because he is hiding, but because he doesn't need that light to define him. His decisions may appear quiet or even mysterious, yet they often carry profound depth. For example, while some may chase high-paying careers simply for status, The Sigma chooses a path that aligns with his values, even if it brings less recognition. Studies in human behavior show that this type of alignment between actions and purpose leads to greater life satisfaction and resilience. What makes this fascinating is that society often misunderstands such men. To the casual observer, the Sigma might seem aloof, rebellious, or detached. But in truth, he simply refuses to live a scripted life. Anthropologists have noted similar traits in lone wolf figures across cultures, individuals who operate outside hierarchies, yet influence them indirectly. Their strength lies in self-reliance, but their impact often echoes louder than those who constantly seek the crowd's attention. This doesn't mean the Sigma lives without struggle. On the contrary, living authentically can be lonely. And history is filled with examples of visionaries and thinkers who were dismissed in their time because they refused to conform. Yet, as research in leadership and innovation consistently highlights, breakthroughs often come from those willing to walk a different path. The Sigma embodies this principle daily, not with noise, but with quiet conviction. In the end, his life is not about putting on a performance, but about crafting something real. Every choice, every step, every silence speaks of a deeper mission, one that does not need an audience to have meaning. And in a world obsessed with appearances, that authenticity is what makes the Sigma truly rare. When you take a step back and reflect on these habits, something profound becomes clear. Being a Sigma male is not about fitting into a stereotype or chasing an image that others recognize. It is at its core about alignment with oneself, living life with quiet purpose, steady discipline, and a sense of inner direction that does not rely on external applause. Modern psychology often points out that true confidence is not loud or boastful. It is calm and deeply rooted in self-acceptance. Sigma males embody this principle almost effortlessly. Their strength is not measured by how much attention they draw, but by how consistently they stay true to their values, even when no one is watching. These habits are not about recognition or quick rewards. In fact, sociological research shows that people who pursue validation externally often experience burnout and dissatisfaction, whereas those who build habits rooted in self-mastery and independence develop resilience and long-term fulfillment. The Sigma way mirrors this truth. Each habit, whether it's maintaining discipline, valuing solitude, or approaching life with quiet confidence, acts as a marker of deeper strength. And while anyone can try to copy these patterns for a while, sustaining them requires authenticity. It is one thing to mimic confidence, it is another to live it daily without needing a stage. Perhaps you recognized only one or two of these habits in yourself, or maybe you noticed all of them reflected in your life. Either way, the point is not to wear the Sigma label as a badge for others to see. True independence doesn't require validation. A Sigma male understands that his worth does not increase when others notice him, nor does it decrease when they overlook him. This echoes timeless wisdom found in philosophy and faith traditions, that self-mastery is the highest form of freedom. In the end, these habits are less about being classified as Sigma and more about becoming a man of depth. A man who stands with quiet strength, who doesn't need the noise of the world to validate his path. True masculinity does not compete for attention, perform for recognition, or chase after fleeting approval. It simply exists with calm assurance. And here's the paradox. When you live that way, the world inevitably notices. Not because you demand its attention, but because authentic strength is impossible to ignore. There's a quiet presence some men carry, an energy that doesn't demand attention, yet draws it all the same. These men don't raise their voices to be heard, nor do they chase recognition. Instead, they move through life with an ease that suggests they know something most others do not. People notice. They may not always have the words to describe it, but they sense it. This is the way of the Sigma male, detached from the usual hierarchies, yet deeply influential. He walks a different path, alone yet not lonely, independent yet deeply connected to his own purpose. And for some, it becomes clear that this isn't just personality, it feels chosen, a role not claimed but carried. When people recognize this, they respond in subtle but telling ways. Sometimes it is admiration, sometimes unease, but always it is acknowledgement that the Sigma is not like the rest. His life carries a weight, a sense of destiny, as though he were set apart for something higher. In this video, we will explore 6 quiet behaviors people display when they recognize a Sigma male as one of the chosen. These are not loud reactions. They are not grand displays. Instead, they are the understated, often unnoticed responses that reveal just how much a Sigma's presence shifts the atmosphere. And as we move slowly through these points, allow yourself to reflect, not with urgency, but with patience. Because recognizing these patterns is not only about understanding others, it is also about understanding yourself. Number 1, they grow silent around him. When people recognize the Sigma as chosen, something almost mystical happens in the atmosphere around him. Conversations that once flowed easily begin to slow, chatter softens, and silence takes its place. This silence is not awkward, it is meaningful. It's a pause filled with presence. In psychology, silence often signals respect, attentiveness, and acknowledgement of authority. Think of a courtroom when the judge enters, or the hush that falls over a stadium before a national anthem. Words become unnecessary because the weight of presence alone communicates more than dialogue ever could. For the Sigma male, this phenomenon happens naturally. His energy does not shout for attention. It draws it quietly, like gravity pulling objects into orbit. Researchers in social psychology have long noted how status cues can shift group dynamics without a single word spoken. Body language, eye contact, and even posture can trigger subconscious recognition of authority or difference. A Sigma's self-possession and detachment from approval seeking often act as such cues. People sense he is not defined by the crowd, and paradoxically this makes the crowd lean in closer. Respect in silence is not about fear, it is about recognition of depth. In many cultures, silence is a marker of wisdom. Indigenous traditions, for example, often honor elders who speak less, but carry great influence when they finally do. Even in religious texts, silence is portrayed as sacred. Think of Elijah's encounter with God, who appeared not in the wind, earthquake, or fire, but in the gentle whisper. Likewise, the Sigma male carries a stillness that unsettles some, but comforts others, a reminder that not all power is loud. This quiet respect also highlights something our modern world tends to overlook. Not all gaps must be filled with words. In fact, sociologists observe that silence in groups often creates space for reflection and meaning. The Sigma embodies this principle effortlessly. His calm detachment challenges others to confront their own discomfort with stillness. Some admire it, others avoid it, but either way they cannot ignore it. To recognize the Sigma as chosen is to recognize that presence itself can be a language. It teaches without instructing, influences without demanding, and commands without raising a voice. In a society addicted to noise, this silence is radical. It reshapes the room, recalibrates the energy, and whispers a truth people instinctively understand. Not everything powerful needs to be spoken. His presence is the message, and silence becomes its echo. Number 2, they seek his approval without asking. Even without a formal title or position, there are certain individuals whose presence naturally influences the behavior of others. People instinctively begin to align their actions around them, seeking subtle cues of approval. A nod, a glance, a quiet acknowledgement. This phenomenon isn't about dominance or authority, it's about energy. Psychology and sociology both recognize this as a form of informal leadership, where influence comes not from rules or hierarchy, but from an internal sense of stability and confidence that others find reassuring. Humans are wired for social mirroring. Neuroscientists point to the role of mirror neurons, cells in the brain that fire both when we perform an action and when we observe someone else performing it. This explains why, in a group setting, if one calm and grounded person remains steady under pressure, others unconsciously match that energy. It's not manipulation, it's resonance. Leadership scholar John Maxwell often says, people buy into the leader before they buy into the vision. In other words, the quiet assurance of a person can validate choices more than speeches or commands ever could. This is why such individuals don't need to demand obedience. Their energy validates those around them. Imagine being in a meeting where chaos breaks out, voices clash, tensions rise. Amidst the storm sits one person, composed and unshaken. Slowly, the group recalibrates. People lower their tone, glance toward the calm figure, and almost subconsciously adjust their behavior. This isn't accidental. Research in organizational behavior calls it emotional contagion, the process by which one person's emotional state spreads to others. Those with steady, disciplined energy become anchors, drawing people into balance. History provides countless examples. Consider Mahatma Gandhi. Without military power or political office for much of his life, he moved nations with quiet resolve. His nod, his approval, or even his silence carried more weight than the loud declarations of others. Similarly, in smaller everyday circles, such influence exists in classrooms, workplaces, or families. A person who radiates self-assurance doesn't need to ask for respect. It is offered freely. The lesson here is not about trying to force influence, but about cultivating inner steadiness. When a person truly knows themselves, when their values are clear and their actions consistent, their presence alone becomes a compass for others. People crave validation, not because the individual commands it, but because their quiet energy affirms this is the right path. And in a world full of noise, that kind of silent leadership is magnetic. Number 3, they share secrets. They haven't told others. There's something disarming about a Sigma's presence. People sense they can trust him. They reveal truths they've kept hidden, believing his silence can hold them without judgment. This quality is not born from loudness or dominance, but from a quiet confidence that communicates safety. Psychologists describe this as a non-reactive presence, a calm energy that reduces anxiety in others and invites openness. Humans are naturally wired to seek out safe spaces for expression, and when someone consistently listens without rushing to fill silence or impose opinions, it creates the kind of environment where even guarded hearts unlock. History and research show that trust is rarely built through words alone. It is cultivated through body language, tone, and consistency. Studies in interpersonal psychology highlight that people trust those who maintain steady eye contact, calm vocal rhythms, and restrained gestures. Sigma males, often comfortable in stillness, project this naturally. They don't force conversations, which ironically makes others want to speak more. Silence, when intentional, becomes powerful. It signals that the Sigma is not trying to manipulate or control the exchange, but simply allowing truth to surface at its own pace. This disarming aura can also be traced to evolutionary psychology. In tribal societies, leaders and hunters often relied on observation and silence rather than constant chatter. Those who spoke only when necessary were perceived as more trustworthy because their words carried weight. The Sigma mirrors this ancient archetype. His stillness feels like steadiness, his lack of judgment like wisdom. In an age of constant noise, where everyone seems to be shouting for attention, his quiet presence feels rare, even sacred. Yet this isn't just about mystery or aloofness, it's about the profound psychological relief people feel in his company. Modern life bombards us with judgment, comparison, and performance pressure. To sit with someone who does not demand masks, who listens without interruption, is almost therapeutic. Research in counseling and therapy affirms that clients often open up most when they sense unconditional positive regard. Acceptance without evaluation. The Sigma, without trying, provides a version of that same space. What makes this especially entertaining is how paradoxical it is. The man who says the least often hears the most. While others chase influence with endless talking, the Sigma gathers it effortlessly by listening. He becomes the keeper of secrets, the quiet confidant, and in this subtle dynamic lies his power, not in dominating conversations, but in shaping them by simply holding space. In a world that glorifies noise, his silence is the most trusted voice of all. Number 4, they test him in small, unseen ways. Some will poke at his boundaries, not openly, but through subtle challenges. Deep down, they want to know if his strength is real or only an image. This dynamic is as old as human interaction itself. Throughout history, individuals who carried an air of mystery or quiet strength often found themselves tested in ways others were not. In psychology, this is tied to what researchers call social probing, a process where people unconsciously test another person's confidence, authenticity, or authority. It's not always malicious. Sometimes it's curiosity, other times it's insecurity. But the Sigma male, who naturally stands outside of social hierarchies, often becomes the perfect subject for these silent experiments. For example, subtle challenges may come in the form of someone questioning his decisions, not directly but with a playful tone, just to see how he reacts. Or it may appear as someone invading his personal space, taking a little more than he offers. hoping to catch a glimpse of whether his calmness is genuine or merely a mask. These behaviors echo what anthropologists describe in tribal structures as boundary testing. In groups, individuals often push against the edges of another's authority to see if it holds. Much like lions in a pride occasionally test the leader's strength to reaffirm hierarchy. Educationally speaking, this is tied to the concept of psychological resilience. Studies show that people who project inner calm but lack genuine confidence often crumble under pressure when subtly tested. But those who are truly centered, whose strength is not an act but an essence, rarely need to raise their voices or prove themselves. They respond with quiet firmness, which often disarms the tester completely. This explains why many Sigma males are respected even if misunderstood. Their boundaries are not loud walls but invisible lines guarded by self-awareness and self-control. Entertainingly, you can think of it like a scene from a martial arts film. The master sits in silence while the younger fighter throws quick jabs, probing, circling, looking for weakness. Yet the master barely moves, just enough to show he cannot be shaken. Eventually, the student learns the truth. The stillness was not passivity, it was power restrained. That is the Sigma's way. People poke, they prod, they challenge in whispers, not shouts. And yet the more they try, the clearer it becomes that his strength is not a performance, it's his nature. It's not about winning every challenge, but about showing that no subtle test can disturb his center. This is why those who test him often walk away with quiet respect, realizing they've encountered something rare, a man whose strength is not for show, but for life. Number 5. They grow uneasy in their own insecurities. When faced with a chosen one, some people feel something deep and unsettling, almost as though they've been quietly exposed. The chosen one doesn't need to speak loudly, boast of accomplishments, or declare his path. His presence alone is enough to stir emotions in others. Why? Because he embodies a sense of clarity and divine alignment that many avoid confronting in themselves. His life reflects purpose, direction, and inner strength, and that mirror can be uncomfortable for those still wandering aimlessly. It is not his fault. He simply becomes a living reminder of what others resist within themselves. Psychologically, this effect is well documented. Human beings often project their insecurities onto others. Social psychology refers to this as social comparison theory, first introduced by Leon Festinger in the 1950s. When someone encounters a person who appears centered, purposeful, or spiritually aligned, it triggers comparison. Instead of feeling inspired, many feel restless. The chosen one highlights the gap between who they are and who they secretly wish to be. It's similar to standing beside a disciplined athlete or a wise mentor. Suddenly our excuses feel small and our distractions feel exposed. Spiritually, the dynamic goes even deeper. In the Bible, Joseph's brothers were unsettled by his dreams, not because Joseph did anything wrong, but because his destiny illuminated their own lack of vision. David was despised by Saul, not because David sought power, but because Saul saw in him the favor of God that he himself had lost. The chosen one often provokes a reaction without trying. His light simply reveals what is hidden in others' shadows. From a broader perspective, this restlessness is also an opportunity. History shows that people who encounter great individuals are given a choice to learn, grow, and rise, or to envy, resist, and shrink back. Some of the greatest teachers, prophets, and leaders never asked for enemies. They simply walked in alignment with their calling, but their presence was enough to unsettle those unwilling to face themselves. The chosen one doesn't carry this to shame others. His role is to live authentically, to walk the path set before him. If others feel exposed, it's a sign of the work they must do within themselves. Instead of running from that mirror, they are invited to ask, why does his purpose unsettle me? What am I avoiding in my own life? In this way, the chosen one is not just a solitary figure walking a divine path. He becomes a quiet catalyst for transformation in everyone around him. Number 6, they follow his lead without realizing it. Perhaps the clearest sign is this: without trying, the Sigma sets direction. People adjust their tone, their choices, even their mindset around him. He is not chasing influence, but influence finds him. This quiet phenomenon may seem mysterious, but it is rooted in psychology, sociology, and history. Human beings are wired to respond to presence, not just words. Presence, in this sense, is the subtle aura of confidence, independence, and authenticity that the Sigma male carries. He does not posture for dominance, yet he commands respect. Think of it like gravity, unseen but strong enough to shape the movement of those nearby. Psychologists call this social calibration. In groups, people subconsciously adjust their behavior to the person who appears least reactive and most self-assured. This is why leaders often emerge not from the loudest voices, but from the calmest ones. Studies on group dynamics reveal that when individuals refuse to conform to pressure yet remain composed, others often shift their energy around them. The Sigma embodies this principle. His detachment from approval-seeking creates an unexpected power. He cannot be manipulated, and this unsettles some while inspiring others. History gives us examples of such figures. Philosophers like Marcus Aurelius or thinkers like Nikola Tesla did not court popularity, yet their lives drew others into their orbit. Even today, men who carry themselves with quiet assurance often influence workplaces, friendships, and even strangers in passing. Their refusal to chase validation creates a paradox. People give them validation without being asked. This is why some interpret the Sigma path as chosen. It is not chosen in the sense of entitlement, but in the sense of responsibility, the burden of carrying energy that naturally shifts the environment. In everyday life, this influence shows itself in subtle ways. A friend may unconsciously lower their voice when speaking with him. A colleague might reconsider a rash decision after hearing his calm perspective. A partner may find themselves seeking his approval even though he never asked for it. It is not hypnotic or manipulative, but a reflection of the human tendency to align with steady, self-directed energy. Even science supports this. Mirror neurons in the brain cause people to reflect the emotions and attitudes of those around them. When the Sigma projects composure, others instinctively mirror it. This influence does not make the Sigma a ruler or a puppet master. Instead, it reminds us of a deeper truth. Power is not always loud, nor is leadership always visible. Influence can flow from silence, self-mastery, and presence. The Sigma does not try to lead, but by living with clarity of purpose, others naturally recalibrate. His life becomes a quiet compass, pointing not through commands, but through example. And this, perhaps, is the purest form of influence, direction without demand, power without pursuit. The reactions people have toward a Sigma male, the silence, the trust, the subtle following, are not random. Human behavior is deeply influenced by unconscious cues, and when someone embodies calm authority, others naturally respond. This response has roots in psychology. People are drawn to those who display what researchers call non-anxious presence. Unlike individuals who dominate with words or loud gestures, the Sigma male communicates strength by what he withholds. His calm posture, his deliberate speech, and his ability to stay grounded, even in tense situations. These qualities create a quiet magnetism that others sense, even if they cannot explain it. When people recognize him as chosen, it is less about mysticism and more about resonance. Sociologists note that humans often mirror those they respect, slowing down to match their rhythm. This is why, in his presence, people pause, reflect, and sometimes reconsider their own actions. It's not manipulation, it's influence born of stability. Much like how a tuning fork sets another into vibration, the Sigma's inner steadiness invites others into alignment. Even history shows us that leaders who moved nations were not always the loudest, but often those whose mere presence altered the atmosphere. Think of figures like Marcus Aurelius, whose writings reveal a man who ruled with measured calm, or even spiritual leaders whose authority was carried more in silence than in speech. For the Sigma himself, this recognition is not meant to inflate ego, but to reinforce responsibility. True leadership is not about titles or recognition, it is about walking with integrity and consistency. The chosen path is not superiority, it is service. People watch, not because he demands it, but because his life quietly demonstrates another way to live. This subtle following can be compared to how children learn, not by constant instruction, but by observing example. So when others respond to his presence, it should be accepted with humility. Not everyone will understand his path, but those who sense it will be shaped by it. In the end, being recognized as chosen is not about how the world applauds, but about how faithfully one carries the life entrusted to them, with steadiness, purpose, and quiet strength.